The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Abard, representing District 12 here in New Hampshire. And today I have a young entrepreneur. His name is Joseph Hyatt from Nashua, New Hampshire, and I want to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Senator. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. So you sent me an email. I think that's how we got all this started, right?
I did send you an email.
And we were talking, I believe, about you said you were an entrepreneur, and there were some things that were concerning you having to do with the brewing industry.
Absolutely.
Before I get to that, how old are you?
I'm 23.
23. You live in Nashua.
I do.
You went to UMass Lowell.
Just recently graduated.
Just recently graduated.
Go Riverhawks.
Now, the thing that's impressive is that you didn't know that what your grade score was until recently.
Yes.
Now, why is that? Why did you hide that from yourself?
I've always felt that there was an instinct in someone's life that they need to know whether they're doing right or whether they're doing wrong. Mm-hmm. So throughout my whole career, I've never really paid attention to what I got on a screen of a computer. I never even looked because I didn't want to distract myself from knowing what I needed to do for myself.
What was your major?
It was entrepreneurship, business administration.
Yeah, from UMass Lowell, and then you decided to move to New Hampshire, or are you
I was born in Dover.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lived in New Hampshire. I actually moved out to Wisconsin for about 5 years.
Okay.
And then we moved back, so
and
a little bit of taste.
So, drum roll, and your grades were?
Magna cum laude.
Magna cum laude.
I didn't even see the GPA to it, truthfully.
Wow.
I can't even tell you the exact number of what I had.
Congratulations.
All I know is I pulled out that diploma, and on it was a beautiful golden star.
And so you graduated with that, and now you hit the ground running. One of your passions is brewing.
It is. So I've always been fascinated with science, but I am not a genius.
Right.
I don't think I'm anything like an Einstein. So I did the science that I could do with my hands because I've always worked with my hands. And brewing was that because there's so many reactions happening in like the microorganisms that we can't even see that I was fascinated by. And I have family in Italy. So the apples were a way that I could connect to my heritage in the wine industry aspect, but not be in a vineyard, be able to switch it to the craft industry.
Okay.
And as soon as I turned 21, I took a course from Siebel, which is a brewing school in Chicago, got certification that way so that I could knock on a door while at UMass Lowell for a co-op at Neighborhood Brewing Company in Exeter, New Hampshire. And I co-opted with them for 2 years.
So do you want to start your own company, or do you have your own company?
So I have my own company. I just wanted to give a preface. Thank you for keeping me straightforward. Yeah. So my company is now a brewing consultant.
Brewing consultant.
Yes, sir.
Interesting.
So I've worked with 2 startup breweries so far. And just on Monday, I brewed a pale ale for the brewery. It was gorgeous. It was a great time, yeah. Yeah? Yeah, so it's wonderful.
How does this work? So as a consultant, are you going into, so Nashua has gin spirits, gin spirits.
Yes.
They're somebody local. We actually interviewed them not too long ago. They're right off of Amherst Street, I believe.
Right.
And so would you go into a place like that and consult or?
Yes. So the gin place might be difficult because I don't have an expertise in gin per se.
Right.
But I could help with.
But as a microbrewery type of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have some firms all over the world actually that I get stainless steel from. That I have a cooperage company that I get special barrels from. So I could go to that gin company and try to help them innovate what they already have because the brewing industry in 2013 was about 30,000 people employed. 2017, we're up to almost 70,000 people. So it's over doubled in 3-4 years just because of the amount of breweries that have opened in this country.
One of the reasons you contacted me was about a particular piece of legislation. And how did that work out for you?
Well, I called the state, and the state was awesome. New Hampshire Liquor Commission did a great job answering all my questions.
Okay.
They're very nice people, love it. And they even know it too. There are just some archaic laws.
Okay.
One being the cider. Seeing that when Prohibition happened in this country, the laws were completely eliminated.
Right.
Alcohol was illegal. Hard cider was brewed as a common drink everywhere. And when the laws were rewritten, it wasn't implemented as big as it was earlier on in our country's history.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So in these laws in the state of New Hampshire, if you brew a hard cider, it has to be underneath 6%. You have to have it underneath a certain PSI poundage, which is what allows you to change it from a champagne-style drink to a low carbonation to some very strong bubbles. And there are a few other things in there that limit how you can do it. But federally, recently there was a Cider Act implemented where it increased the alcohol content to 8.5. It allowed a much wider range of carbonation so that you could do all different styles.
Different styles and different flavors? Or
Yeah, so
okay.
today I brought the team a IPA hopped cider that I do at home. I did a cranberry pomegranate cider, and I have a cider I call Gem.
So basically health food.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
just kidding.
Health food with a little fun twist.
Right.
Responsibly.
Responsibly. Do you have a store? Do you have an outlet? Do you have a warehouse? Or
So I brew all of this in my basement,
Okay.
which is technically a home brew, do it that way, and I give it out to my friends. And this is why I contacted you.
Mhm.
Because at this moment in time, for me to get into a business and open a brewery strictly as hard cider, I would fail.
Because
Because the cider I brought you today, 7.9, 7.2,
okay,
6.3.
and you cannot legally market that.
I cannot
But
legally market that.
You can legally make it.
Oh, I could legally make it, and I'd have to label it as a wine.
I see.
And then the taxes jump up, and everything changes again and on business side.
So, do we need to see a change on the federal level or on the state level?
State level.
In order for you to brew what was traditionally done prior to Prohibition,
Yes.
right? And some people would say we're still under Prohibition. It's just that the state is in charge of it.
You're a clever man.
No, is that correct?
It can be that way. There are some ways. There are some things. But
So maybe next legislation, somebody would introduce that. Why would somebody oppose this type of change? The reason I ask, because in a committee, somebody's going
Of
to say, well,
course.
Senator, why do we need this?
So, I mean, I think the biggest one would be someone abusing alcohol. You want to keep things at a lower percentage in that sense. The rebuttal is most cider makers are diluting their product to make them not produce the alcohol content I have. But other than the strength of having a responsible attitude toward it, there's really not much of a fight because the bill would actually allow a new term called farm cideries. So it would be boosting the in-state farming community agriculture aspects because
Interesting.
you're supposed to buy in-house. That's what I mean. I get all my apples from a local orchard.
So if somebody like Sullivan Farms, which is in Nashua, if they said, you know what, maybe we'd like to try a different avenue, you could consult them and help them with. Now, is this a good way for you to make a living?
It is. It's a great way to make a living, actually. And it's
Would you
what I
want your
love.
own cider farm?
Yes, I would love my own cider farm. Absolutely. Because the different ways you can brew it are so many different styles that you could consult and help other people. But I have a passion for that.
So tell me, are there any other states that allow this?
New York.
New York.
New York is booming right now. I think his name, Chuck Schumer, is I believe.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, right. Me neither. Who is this guy? He was a huge pushing force in the farm cidery aspect of New
Really?
York. Yes. And they have taken it and run with it with their farms.
Interesting. How about California? Do they have?
So they're
Washington.
They're more winey.
Okay.
Washington, I don't know their exact laws, truthfully, but they have cideries everywhere. My sister just moved to Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
She sends me pictures all the time. Joseph, come out here and work here. Look at all that's going on.
Yeah, we want you to stay in New Hampshire.
Guess what? Me too.
Yeah, we want
I'm
you to stay in
thankful
New
for that.
Hampshire. We're looking to make sure that our millennials stay here. and so, well, maybe we can look at this. I'm curious as to what any opposition would. So New York does it, Oregon does it.
I believe, I can't say the exact farming license. I believe Vermont has one. And if it's not cidery, a farm cidery, they have farm brewery permits that I don't believe we have in New Hampshire that
Really?
are as strong as the other states.
So is it the strength of the alcohol that is needed in order to?
That's just for the cider.
Just for the cider.
The farming aspect comes in from getting your products sourced from local places.
So I recently saw a commercial. We've been seeing it for a while now. Angry Orchards, right? Angry Orchards, and just in the last couple of days, they started showing the apples. They're ugly.
Very ugly.
But they're the best, and it was just another way for them to reinvent themselves, because all you see is this old curmudgeonly old man. Then they started remarketing it. So are we talking about that kind of a cider?
Absolutely.
And
It's an
that's
art.
not
It's
allowed
an
in New
art.
Hampshire, but they can sell the product in New Hampshire.
Well, technically, the way they brew it is a little different than the way you would
You would
brew
do
it. So I have no doubt that they use real apples, but it says in their ingredients that there's a concentrate.
Okay.
So there's a concentrate
All right.
added allowed to.
So some vineyards will have imported concentrates, whereas like a local vineyard like Fulcino's or LaBelle, they grow their own.
It's all in-house, exactly,
Yeah.
or in-state.
Right.
And that's the big part about the legislation that I want to bring forward, allowing, because there are, I couldn't count how many farms in this state, and I've been talking to a lot of them, and most of them would jump on an opportunity to be able to take,
Well, just in
I
this
call it a
district alone.
WTP, I'm sorry, waste to product.
Yeah.
All of those farmers who have apples at the end of the year, who they'd either have to give it to the animals or just get rid of it, they can take that waste, turn it into a product
Right.
that everybody
And
wants.
produce, right?
Yeah.
And for some reason, New Hampshire has anybody attempted to do this?
There have been some cideries in Lebanon. There are a few scattered around, most successfully at this point in time.
I mean, as far as the legislation, I apologize.
I'm sorry, I didn't misunderstood. I don't know.
Hmm.
From what I've found, no, because everyone has just wiggled into the loopholes that they found within the system.
Right.
Instead of me, who I read it and I said, I don't like this. I'd rather reach out to you and say, hey, we can make something different. We can
Right.
grow this state, make it even bigger and better than it already is.
So do you have backers to help you if you decided to, if something
Yeah.
like this, you could grow your own and start out? That's interesting. There's all kinds of apple orchards around, obviously,
And there are thousands of different types of apples.
right?
One of the types I brought today, I did a champagne. I actually pressed it myself. I have a little wooden press at my house. So I did 7.
I'm sure it's good, but I don't drink.
No,
them.
no,
Just-
of course.
yeah.
It's for the working team in the back. Actually, I brought
Yeah.
it just for everyone to have. But it's a mix of 75% Hudson Golden Gem
Yeah.
and 25% Bosque Pear. So you can add the innovations, and that's the other part where if we implement the law, we need to change it slightly, because that cranberry pomegranate I told you about, technically would be against the law the federal way, because they stated that you can't add any other fruits into the cider, which
Right. So
I thought maybe would be to not allow like a monopoly sense, but that was again, to point to your
and
objection.
that would have to be on the federal level. So I
Which is
believe-
different, but-
and they have preemption most likely, or supremacy clause. So a lot of people don't realize that you still have to obey the feds too. So you.
I know this very well. The ATF is no one to mess with. If you're making alcohol, you better obey the rules.
Yeah, good for you. All right, so what are your plans now? Until obviously there's no legislation that's going to come in this year to support
Absolutely.
this. So magna cum laude, you've done some internships already?
Yes, I did a co-op.
A co-op.
I was actually trained with Horst Dornbusch. He's a world-renowned brewer born in Dusseldorf, Germany, who's been in the industry for 30 years. So I learned German beer styles.
In the meantime, are you able to make a living at what you're doing now?
Yes, so I have one client, as I said, Mill Yard Brewery in Nashua. They're awesome. Go visit.
Where are they located?
They're located right by Vertical Dreams. So if you go down by Main Street on Nashua, you just keep going all the way down, you pass the hospital, and it's right on Otterson.
Right. Yeah.
So-
I think the loft used to be there years ago, and if you keep going a little further, it's Harbor Ave, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I can make a living with it. It's really amazing to do consulting. So if we buy a 10-barrel system with the brewery, which we're looking at, you you spend, that this is just a random number, but if you spend $30,000, I get X percent of that 30,000. So there's a commission aspect to it. There's some hourly aspect to it. And there's also the aspect where I love helping grow startups.
So an orchard maybe in Hollis or up north somewhere says, look, this guy's got an idea. Maybe we can get started. If a law comes in the future, maybe we could be up and running. How could he help us out? So they call you up and say, hey, look, just how do we get started with this? You can start them out.
So yeah, the first little tip I'd give people is if you're going to make a brewery and you're going to have all those stainless steel tanks everywhere, make sure you put your drain somewhere close to the tanks. Because it's the little things about brewery operations that after a year of being in the business, you realize you should have done differently.
Okay.
You can look at it a way that a brewery operates and you can say, oh, well, this should be here, that should be this way, and you should have a completely different flow.
Joseph, you're only 23. How do you know all this stuff? I mean, why can't I hire somebody from New York or something like that?
So you might be able to, but most of those people will be working with big companies. When you have worked as a startup, going ground floor in 2 companies, working on a third, there's actually another UMass Lowell. He's soon going to be a grad who recently contacted me, and we're working on trying to figure out how I can help him as well.
Great.
So it's almost some simple nature things, and it kind of goes back to I didn't check my GPA because I knew. Mm-hmm. I have faith in myself. I have faith in God. I know there's a plan for life, and if I don't know something, I'm not going to lie and say I do. So if you own a brewery and you say to me, Joseph, let's get X, Y, and Z done. If I can't do Y, I'm going to openly say to you, I'm going to look you right in the eyes and say, you know what, X and Z, done. Right off the bat. But Y, I may need to go do some research. Maybe I need to go get a consultant who can consult me on something, because I have weaknesses. I'm only a man. Yeah. But
are we all?
Yeah, so, amen.
Interesting. So have you looked at other types of like vineyards and have you looked at other sources of type of?
So I've looked at them. Their vineyards are almost more specialty. They would rather you have a background in that sense before you come in with it. Mm-hmm. And vineyards are in a weird way are slower. Some very some very smart people in my life have said to me, you want to see a lot of money go to no money? Buy a vineyard. Because it takes years and years.
It's a lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah. And most of those people in that lifestyle, they won't need someone like me, because the craft industry is, as I told you, we've just doubled employment in 3 years. I've been to a brewing school. Not all brewers have done that. So I have a little bit of an insight that I can help these people with.
How has this helped New York with their economy? Has it helped at all? I mean,
so they have a better growler law too. Okay. So in this state.
Oh my gosh, has that come up? I don't know how many times in the Senate.
I was going to say, I know you've heard of this one, because that one comes up every time we have growler bill. So in New York, you can take a growler from any place, anywhere.
Describe, what is a growler?
A growler is a large glass bottle which you fill up at a brewery to have your beer brought home with you. Right. And in this state, understandably, I actually understand why it's done. If I own a brewery and you own a brewery, our growlers cannot be filled at each other's locations because it's misbranding, it's misrepresentation, X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
But in New York, it's very free, and the movement of craft in New York is almost fluid, so to speak. There's really not
no pun intended in it. Free New York?
Yeah, wow, no pun intended.
It's not like to live free or die state.
No, it's not, but that's the other thing. I want us to be a little bit... Yeah. But there's just a certain aspect to it that they've allowed their people to have that's created.
How big of an industry is it? How do you monetize that?
So you can monetize it per capita. You can do it how much money you make per year.
What does the state bring in?
I think $353 million, and that was in 2014. The past 3 years, I've found no government data on it.
Okay.
I did my research, but I couldn't find it. And I think we are not ranked 9th in the country per capita. We have a lot of breweries for our surrounding areas, seeing our size.
Yeah.
So that's good. You rank it by that. You also rank it by quality of beer. And we have good quality beer in the state. Smutty Nose, which has been around forever. There's Throwback. There is Nashua Brewing Company. They've been around for a very long time.
How does somebody contact you to get for consulting?
So I don't have an email. I don't have a website. I only have an email.
Okay.
So it's Joseph at HyattBrewingCompany.com. and my cell phone.
And your cell phone.
Yep, so
right?
that's 603-566-4695.
Sure. And you're open for business. Obviously, you can help consult. What if somebody wanted to hire you as an employee to do brewery?
I guess I'd have to cross that bridge when I got there. I would be happy to do it as long as there was the ability for me to be able to help startups grow as well.
Right.
As long
so you
as
need that flexibility.
Yeah, as long as there's a little flexibility. I mean, most brewers I know work 60, 70 hours a week, truthfully.
Do you do that now?
I did. At this point in time, I don't because I only have one client. So I'm filling my time with trying to get this happen.
With your one client, give us an idea. How do you support him? What do you do?
Absolutely. So I've been with him for 2 months.
Okay.
I've been in business 2 months.
Okay.
So that's
All right, good.
baby steps, right? Baby steps.
Yep.
So on Monday, their words, not mine, we brewed the prettiest batch of beer through their system ever. So it looked like glass. You could see all of the reactions happening in the whirlpool. I introduced some brewing science aspects that they didn't do before. These are words that if you don't understand what they mean, they can sound just like gibberish, but the mash schedule, you can pull out flavors and sugars, there's debranching enzymes, there's alpha rests, beta rests, the science goes on and on. So when you have the understanding of that and the love for it, like the nerdiness,
Sure.
I get excited about it.
I
You can help people understand how to make their brews so different. Yeast styles, whirlpooling. So we actually did a whirlpool, which is why it looked so beautiful. We drop the temperature and then you add hops so that instead of a bitterness with the beer, you get some beautiful aroma on it and a flavor profile.
If you wanted to work with somebody like on a short-term basis, who would be your ideal person that you would want to work under to learn?
That is a great question.
Do you have a hero in the brewing industry that you would like to?
One of them was Horst.
Horst, yeah.
And I was able to get that gift. And he works with some of the largest names in the world. He travels to South America, Germany, South Africa, everywhere for
How did you get that opportunity?
church.
Really?
Yeah. So I knocked on the brewery door and said I would like to work there. And they were like, all right, maybe. And then someone in my family told someone that I was looking for brewery work. And they went, I know someone in church who is opening a brewery. And so they sent them a letter. They did not contact me. Another person in the same church, one friend of my father, one friend of my mother, contacted them again. And there were 3 owners. So 2 owners each got a letter about me. And they said, if he's going to get 2 people to throw their necks out on the line, we should give him a chance.
And so you got to meet him personally.
I did.
And how did you, when you work with somebody, how close did you work with them?
Very closely.
Yeah?
15, 16-hour days if needed. No problem. Oh, yeah. Grab lunch, grab a beer afterwards. I'm there with you, and there's no phones, there's no distractions. We're one-on-one. I think they also liked me, too, because I dressed nice for the interview, and I brought a bag.
Good for you.
And they went, sir, what's in the bag? And I
Lunch.
said, no.
No?
I said, this is a pair of work clothes in case you need me to go out back and do something.
Good for you.
And they went, that's the right kind of attitude to have.
Excellent.
Because that's how I know I'm being right.
Right.
It's that instinct.
Fantastic. No, that's good news. So, all right, so that answers that question. Would you work for Budweiser if they hired you?
Budweiser makes a great beer.
Yeah.
I would be honored to work at a decent level in Budweiser.
Yeah.
Because to make a beer
Do you have
at
to
the
get
same
a
time,
degree in it, like being a master brewer? Or
Yeah,
something
so
like that?
great. Yeah, so actually, UCal Davis in California. I've been thinking about applying there because that is the master's in fermentation you speak of that you would get to go work at a Budweiser or a Coors or something like that. But my heart loves the little guy.
Sure.
And there's something that is really awesome about going into a place, looking around, and being like, yeah, you know what? In 1 quarter, this place is going to be completely different.
Right.
And it's going to be for the better.
So right now, if I were to make a recommendation for you, just do a little bit more research as to the language of a bill.
Absolutely.
And maybe find a lobbyist or something like that to work with. Because sometimes a lobbyist can do some good research for you and help make with connections. But if you can come up with language that describes exactly what New Hampshire needs in order to open up an industry, not blocking out anybody, but making it more inclusive, enabling legislation, we call it. If you can do that and then bring it forward, then we can take a look at it.
Awesome.
We'll present a bill, and the thing about a bill, it's an art. You know, you have an idea, you bring it in, it goes through the legislative services, they do their thing, and they try to line it up with all the other bills, and then it comes out, and then you're going to have your proponents and your opponents, and in that whole process, with all the back and forth, and then the committee members and the amendments and all that, you have a product. And then, of course, that's how it gets done. Obviously, I'm not trying to school you on that part, but it allows your idea to float up to the top. And then, you know, if it survives the House and the governor, then you've really done something to help out your community on a long-term basis.
Absolutely.
So we would call that an enabling legislation, and it has its roots in your beginning. If you can come up with that, do your homework with it, and then present it to me, and then I'll bring it up, and we'll see, you know, what gives.
Absolutely.
You know, and if the opponents are out there, they'll come out and they'll say, this is why we can't do it in New Hampshire, or this is why we can, and then you just live with what the legislature does.
Awesome.
But that's a good service to the state. If you can open up and create an industry, you know, maybe make sure that earmarked 5% of the proceeds actually goes to recovery. You know, maybe,
I love that idea.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
We're working on that with the Medicaid expansion. That we're trying to make sure that money goes to where it's supposed to go. It says shall, but for some reason people dip into it. So you can put it into your legislation saying, hey, you know, every 5% of the sales has to go to such and such. But in the meantime, hey, more power to you in entrepreneurship. This is great. Congratulations on the cum laude. What is it?
Magna cum laude.
Magna cum laude. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
And people can get in touch with you one more time. Your phone number?
Yeah, my phone number is 603-566-4695. Please give me a call anytime. My email is joseph@hyattbrewingcompany.com. Shoot me a message if you guys ever need any help.
Buzzweiser, if you're listening, this is somebody maybe you would like to talk to. In the meantime, thanks for watching Speaking with the Senator. We'll see you next week.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.